A brother from Lanarkshire left a comment on the Rose Croix video I made a few months ago. He wrote, "That rose should be white. I'm pink rose with blue and gold and red, Lanarkshire." He was right for his house. I'm Portuguese. I'm a 24 degrees Scottish Rite Mason. In my jurisdiction, the rose is red. The cross is dark. The apron is one color, the sash another. The ritual moves through specific symbols and a specific sequence. I went through it. I have the 18 degrees. I wear the regalia. But in Scotland, in his lodge, in his constitution, the same 18 degrees degree, the same Rose Croix, uses a white rose. Different ribbons, different appointments, different visual grammar entirely, same degree, different countries, different rites. I want to show you why. The Rose Croix is the 18 degrees of the Scottish Rite. The 18th degree out of 33, it sits at the heart of what's called the Court of Honour, the middle section of the rite, between the lower degrees that build the philosophical foundation and the higher degrees that build the administrative and contemplative tradition. It's one of the most beautiful degrees in Freemasonry. Anyone who's been through it will tell you, the candidate is brought into a darkened chamber. There's a moment of recognition, a symbol is revealed, the light returns. It's deeply moving even for someone who isn't religious. The degree's central symbols are the rose and the cross. The rose, in Western esoteric tradition, represents the soul, the heart, the inner Christ principle, the silent center of being. The cross represents the body, the material world, the four directions, the sacrifice. The rose blooming at the center of the cross is one of the oldest symbolic combinations in Western mysticism. It predates Freemasonry by centuries. The Rosicrucians, the alchemists, the medieval mystics, all used it. The 18 degrees is where this symbolism becomes the candidate's own. My Rose Croix is worked in the Portuguese jurisdiction. The Supremo Conselho para Portugal, ancient and accepted Scottish Rite. Founded on the 9th of November 1841 in Lisbon by authorization from the Supreme Council of Brazil, which itself carried the Scottish Rite lineage that traces back to Charleston, South Carolina in 1801. The Portuguese story took a hard turn in the 20th century. Under the Salazar dictatorship, Freemasonry was outlawed in Portugal in 1935. The Supremo Conselho went underground and worked in clandestinity for decades. It only recovered its full international regularity after the return of democracy, and specifically in 1993, when the modern regular Supremo Conselho para Portugal was re-established, restored and consecrated by the sovereign Grand Commander of the southern jurisdiction of the United States himself. The lineage was reconnected directly. My Grand Lodge, the Grande Loja Regular de Portugal, was founded in 1991 and was recognized by the United Grand Lodge of England within the year. That's the Portuguese context. The first time I went into that chapter room, I'd already been a Mason for years. I'd gone through the Blue Lodge degrees under the Grande Loja Regular de Portugal. I'd worked through 14 Scottish Rite degrees to get there. By the time the Rose Croix was conferred on me, I thought I knew what to expect. I did not know what to expect. What I can tell you, while staying inside the obligation, my apron for the 18 degrees has a specific structure. The rose on it is red, the cross is dark. The cordon, the ribbon, runs over the right shoulder. The jewel, the rose cross worn around the neck, has a specific design used in the Portuguese Rite. The Portuguese Rite is anchored in the international Scottish Rite constitutions of 1786. The same constitutional foundation that anchors the Southern Jurisdiction USA, the Scottish Constitution, and every other regular Supreme Council in the world. Around that shared foundation, each jurisdiction develops its own ceremonial and interpretive tradition. In the broader Scottish Rite tradition, and in Pike's influential 19th century systematization, which shaped much of how the modern Rite is read, the red rose is the soul in its active, incarnated state. Passionate, embodied, struggling, alive. The dark cross is the world the soul must move through. That's the Portuguese version. That's the one I have. But cross the Atlantic into Scotland, and the entire visual grammar changes. The Supreme Council, 33 degrees, ancient and accepted Scottish Rite for Scotland, based in Edinburgh, works the same 18 degrees, including the Rose Croix, but their regalia is built around a white rose, not a red one. The ribbons are blue, gold and red, distinct from the southern jurisdiction's colour scheme. The jewel is structured differently. The apron design follows a different pattern. Why white instead of red? In the Scottish tradition, the white rose symbolises purity, innocence, the perfected soul. The rose returned to its original state. The Scottish interpretation leans more toward the contemplative, the redeemed, the spiritually purified. It's the same symbolic vocabulary, rose, cross, colour. But the message the regalia communicates is different. There's also the Royal Order of Scotland, a separate Masonic body parallel to the Scottish Rite, which works degrees that include Rose Croix themes, but interprets them through a deeply Scottish lens, tied to the legendary Brotherhood of David I and the history of the Knights Templar in Scotland. The brother from Lanarkshire could be working in either or both of these bodies. When he says white rose with blue and gold and red, he's describing the Scottish appointments, the standard regalia of the Scottish Constitution. His Rose Croix isn't wrong. Mine isn't wrong. They're the same degree, expressed in two different visual languages. And then there are the other major constitutions. In England and Wales, the 18 degree is worked under the ancient and accepted Rite for England and Wales. The Supreme Council, 33 degrees, based in London. Their regalia and their interpretation differ again from both the American and Scottish versions. The English version tends to be more austere. The symbols are present, but the visual presentation is more restrained. In the United States, there's also the Northern Masonic jurisdiction, covering 15 northern states from Maine to Wisconsin. They work the same Scottish Rite degrees, including Rose Croix, but with their own ritual interpretations and their own regalia traditions. Northern and southern jurisdictions cooperate, but they are independent. A Mason from the southern jurisdiction visiting a valley in the northern jurisdiction will recognize most of what he sees, but the details, the colors, the specific procedure will be different. In France, the Grande Loge de France and the Grand Orient de France work versions of the Rite that incorporate French Masonic philosophical traditions, different again. In Brazil, the Supreme Council for Brazil has its own version. In Ireland, the Supreme Council for Ireland has yet another. In Belgium, in Spain, in Argentina, the same 18th degree, the same Rose Croix, conferred and worked dozens of distinct ways across the Masonic world. Here is the part that matters for understanding what Freemasonry actually is. There is no central authority over Freemasonry. There is no Pope of the lodges. There is no global headquarters that issues a uniform ritual. What there is a network of sovereign grand lodges and supreme councils, each one independent within its own territorial jurisdiction, each one recognizing or not recognizing others based on mutual treaty. The United Grand Lodge of England recognises certain Grand Lodges around the world. The Grand Lodge of Scotland recognises a different but overlapping list. The Supreme Council 33 degrees Southern Jurisdiction recognises certain other Supreme Councils and not others. This federated self-governing structure is not a flaw of Freemasonry. It is its central organisational principle, going back to the formation of the first Grand Lodge in London in 1717. From the beginning, Freemasonry has been a brotherhood of sovereign lodges, not a hierarchical institution. What unites the brothers across all these jurisdictions is not uniformity of practice. It's the shared symbolic vocabulary, the square, the compass, the pillars, the checkered floor, the tree of life, the rose and the cross. These symbols are constant across every regular jurisdiction in the world. Around those constant symbols, each jurisdiction builds its own ritual interpretation, its own regalia, its own ceremonial flow. And when a Mason from one jurisdiction visits a lodge in another, the first conversation is always about the differences. What's the same? What's different? What each brotherhood reads into the same symbol. This is what the brother from Lanarkshire was doing in that comment, not correcting me, showing me his version. So here's how I would describe my Rose Croix to him now, if he was sitting across from me at a lodge meeting. My rose is red, my cross is dark, my cordon runs over the right shoulder. My jewel follows the Portuguese Supreme Council design. I was made a Rose Croix Mason in Portugal, in a tradition anchored in the Scottish Rite constitutions of 1786, with historical lineage traceable through the Brazilian and American Scottish Rite traditions of the 19th century, and modern regularity reconsecrated in 1993 by the Sovereign Grand Commander of the Southern Jurisdiction of the United States. His rose is white. His ribbons are blue, gold, and red. His Rose Croix descends through the Supreme Council of Scotland, with Scottish ritual sensibilities, perhaps drawing also from the Royal Order of Scotland. Different houses, different visual grammar, same degree, same brotherhood. That's the Rose Croix. One more thing before I go. Next Thursday, we look at the most misread esoteric book of the last century, the Kybalion, the 7 Hermetic Principles, presented everywhere online as ancient Hermetic wisdom passed down through the ages. It isn't. It was written in 1908 by an American author under a pseudonym, and the real Hermetic tradition, the one we've been tracing on this channel, barely appears in it. Next Thursday, what the Kybalion actually is, why so many people get it wrong, and where the real Hermetic teachings actually live. Subscribe if this is the kind of work you want more of. This is the hidden thread